Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Video Clips. And I'll start with just a couple of announcements. So I have scheduled another professional development career call for May 4th, which is tonight, actually, at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And we're going to talk about opportunities in healthcare, what we do here, our professional development programs. It's open, Q&A is welcome. So please plan to join us if you are interested in learning how you can either, as a health professional, transition to doing something else, or if you're not a health professional, how you can learn to do some of the things that we do here at Wellness Forum Health. Along that line, summer semester is coming soon. We will be offering courses associated with the Nutrition Educator program. We'll also be offering programs, another program called the Diet and Lifestyle Intervention course, which is a wonderful 15-module class that happens over the summer. And we cover men's health, women's health, children's health, some brief overview of the science and how to read science, and then autoimmune diseases, gastrointestinal diseases, all of the different disease categories, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's. It's an overview. It's not a deep dive into any of this, but it's a good overview course, and lay people are welcome to join, as well as health professionals too. The Curious About COVID workshops continue. Happy hour starts this week, Friday at 6, an hour of positivity. We're going to make sure everybody finishes their week with something good to think about. And then the COVID 25 and lessons from COVID, those are coming in just 3 weeks. So make sure that you're a member so you can take advantage of those things and happy hour. All right, so for today's topic, during the last several, I guess it's months now, maybe weeks or months, I've been sharing more about my personal life and background. And in return, you guys are starting to share in some of your emails back to me. An interesting dialogue, I think, is developed and continues to develop with people reporting their experiences and their reactions and their feelings and their frustrations and that sort of thing. There's a lot's going on about, through email. Well, I've talked a lot about sadness. I think we've all felt that about something, ranging from a neighborhood restaurant that goes out of business to a friend or family member who's disconnected and events that are canceled, and all that's pretty normal. But I've been asked to talk about grieving and grief by several of you. Many are reporting that the impact of some of the things that have been happening to them are so awful that, just sadness doesn't begin to describe it. It's something much more than that. And I'm not a psychologist, so I can't talk about any of this in any kind of clinical way. I mean, our depression and anxiety groups, and Kylie Rohrbaugh, who is one of the most marvelous therapists I know, that's much better place for the clinical discussion. So I just have to talk about it from personal experience. First, grief is most associated with the death of a family member or somebody close to you, but many things can be just as devastating as death. I mean, in fact, being disowned, disconnected, cast out of a family member or family or a group that's important to you is devastating. When someone betrays their trust or your trust in them or lies to you, it's devastating. When somebody that you love when something that you love and look forward to disappears, I mean, I think that's devastating. And the moment you realize the depth of the problem that we're in, I think that can be devastating. I mean, sometimes people write to me and say, it's suddenly settling in, like, what's really happening and how bad I really feel about it. And I think that's a devastating feeling. A member of our Thursday group one night shared a story. She had been going to a church and had been adopted by a family at church that called her the daughter they never had, and very, very close relationship. And then all of this nonsense started and the church closed. And then there was a difference of opinion about everything that's going on. And what happened was these people decided to disconnect from her in a very, very hurtful way. They even sent back all of the gifts that she had bought them and that sort of thing over the years. I mean, it was just, I felt a lot of pain just listening to this, and it wasn't even happening to me. I could certainly see the pain that she was in, but I could also feel it myself, like how bad I would feel if that happened to me. So, that brings on a feeling that it goes beyond sadness. It's just a profound disappointment. And it might actually be easier if this family had died rather than what they did. In other words, death has a finality to it, and it has nothing to do with you. But this, it's hard not to take personally, but it's every bit as final as if these people had died. So I've had similar situations and disappointments. I've had, boyfriends that cheated and employees who stole money, and business relationships in which someone who I trusted destroyed an opportunity for me that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. I've had hit pieces on me in the media, and of course the family situation I've talked about before. It's every bit as bad when this stuff happens as if somebody dies. And part of it is the finality that seems like it's just like death. I'm never going to see these people again. It's hard to imagine that anything could repair the rift. You can't fix death, and you just can't fix all the things that go on in life or the things that are happening now. So I've been thinking about, what do you say about this from a non-therapist standpoint that might be helpful? And one of the things I've figured out is when this kind of stuff happens, and I'm feeling kind of grief-stricken about it, grief is the main umbrella term, and then underneath it are a whole lot of other feelings and emotions. And if you can get in touch with some of that and see it for what it really is, that can sometimes be the beginning of sorting it out. So I'll do my best to do that here, So here's my experience. The first thing that happens to me when something devastating happens is numbness. It's a common response, by the way. It's one I'm familiar with. It's how I survived a lot of things in my life. But to a certain extent, it can help you survive. But most of the time, what it does is it's dangerous because it gives you the illusion that you're in control when you're really not in control and you're falling apart. So feeling numb for a while is okay, but if you're feeling numb for a long time, my advice is to start letting yourself respond to what happened, and you might need some help with that, and I'll get to that later. To be clear, I like numb. It's a great place to hide. I can continue on as if nothing happened, and I can get things done and get all my obligations taken care of. I do this really well, and it is extraordinarily comfortable to me. But it catches up sooner or later. I mean, I learned that early on in life when I acted out for a few years in a very irresponsible manner, mainly because I had neglected to address anything that actually happened to me in any kind of meaningful manner. So I've done this through breakups with romantic partners and associates that deceived me and the whole 9 yards. The difference, though, now versus then, is I know that numbness is the calm before the storm. So what's the storm? Well, what follows numb is horrific pain. It's that awful feeling in the pit of your stomach that makes you want to sleep or eat or drink or anesthetize yourself somehow so you don't have to feel it. And even when you do these things, you still feel it. And here's what I've done, for whatever it's worth. I think the most important thing is to reach out to someone. There is something therapeutic in just telling somebody else what happened and the feelings that you're having. Asking for help is not easy, but it always makes things better if you reach out to the right person, which for some people right now might mean reaching out to the one person on the planet who shares your perspective about this and is still on your side and has your back. That's who you reach out to. Interestingly enough, there's a connection to health. Years ago, when I read Kelly Turner's book called Radical Remission, it's about cancer patients who survived. And one of the things that the cancer patients all said is that they felt there was a reason that they got cancer, and if they could get in touch with it, they would, with all of the reasons that they got cancer, they could perhaps increase their survival, which they were successful in doing. And a lot of them felt that they had always been the people offering help. They never were the people asking for help. And when they became very ill with cancer, they had no choice but to reach out for help, and they thought that that was part of the process of getting better. So I'll tell you about a situation in which I did that many years ago when I thought I'd met Mr. Right. And this was at a point in time in my life when I thought that was an important part of my life. Well, the relationship ended and I was devastated. Well, first I was numb and then I was devastated, to be clear. And during that period of time, I could stay busy during the day and evening, like there's work and there's yoga and all that stuff. But by about 10 p.m., there's none of that. It's just me by myself feeling like I was going to die. Sleeplessness and starvation are two things that I do well when things are not going so well and I'm sideways. But I finally reached a point where I couldn't get any skinnier and I couldn't wander around all night awake much longer. So I decided to reach out, and I actually, I never asked anybody to do this before. I said, you know what? I think I need some babysitting, and I'm wondering, would you come to my house at night and sleep in the bedroom down the hall? I think it would help me to have somebody there. So for a person who prides herself in being strong for everybody else, this was a stunning admission of vulnerability. And I was frankly surprised, a pretty tall ask, but my friend decided to do that. And an interesting thing happened. Just knowing somebody was down the hall in one of the guest bedrooms made me feel better, and I started sleeping. And when I started sleeping, I became more rational. And I was still pretty miserable, just to be clear, but I was at least, functioning better. And after a week, I was a lot better. And over a period of a long time, I got all the way better and started living again. And in the process of that, I started to have some more perspective, which let me really kind of see the shortcomings in the relationship and what led to all of this. And I can tell you that it was really good that this didn't work out. I don't think I'd be very happy right now had it worked out. It was what I wanted in the short term, but in the long term, it would have been disastrous. So anyway, the first piece of advice, and I'm going to do more on this. I'll be back to you with more news on this on Thursday because it was going to be such a long message if I covered all of it. So I'm going to cover it a piece at a time. But if you are feeling awful pain, that grief-stricken, this is horrible, you have to reach out to somebody. And the somebody doesn't have to live nearby, but it just has to be somebody willing to take your phone call. And for some of you, it might be the wake-up call that what is needed in your life right now is to meet new peeps. I mean, I think when the woman who shared this at our Thursday group, I mean, we're basically new friends to her. I'm first of all just so grateful that she felt like she could share it. It means the Thursday group thing works in so many ways that we never anticipated when we started. But you might have to reach out and find new friends. And that's what a lot of us are doing, new friends and colleagues right now, to make our lives whole again. You know, it's ironic that the hardest thing to do is the thing that will have the biggest effect positively on you. And that's to reach out and just say, I need help. And like, again, being that strong, independent person who's always been the person there for everybody else, that's very hard for me to do, but I'm glad I did it. And it gets easier every time. And you know what you find out, which is really wonderful, is the person who you asked for help is grateful that you asked, because they feel, that person and other people feel better when they're helping. That's why I like being the helper. It makes me feel good. I help somebody else, that makes me feel good. Well, let somebody else have that opportunity with you. So, like I said, there's so much more to share, but that's enough for right now. So as usual, pass this on to anybody who you think would enjoy watching it. I'll be back to you on Wednesday with more news. And remember, Wednesday and Friday, the videos are posted someplace else. Monday, I put out a newsletter. So if you want to subscribe to that, you have to send me an email at pampopper@msn.com. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you tomorrow.